Is there going to be racing in the game?
Yeah, no, we've actually been talking about that. It's something pretty easy for us to do. We actually want to do kind of in-game things to let people bet against each other,
Exactly.
play, do stuff. So we will have in-game racing.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like gladiatorial areas, racing areas, fun things to do.
No, we want people. The whole point of customization. We want a whole like subculture of people showing up with their hot rod ships with
That's awesome.
Go faster stripes and
Go faster stripes and
spoilers on the back.
This week's Fan Focus comes from two of our favorite contributors, Anything FPS and Disco Lando, where they took the buggy and created a buggy bumper car bonus round inside the hangars. Take a look at this as they zoom around and race their buggies through all these different iterations of the hangar. We're looking forward to what everybody else can do when those tools are released. Nice job, Disco and Anything FPS.
If we have like a competition or esports thing, we'd figure out ways to broadcast the combat or ways to broadcast the racing, and maybe once the persistent universe is up and running, you could even be in a bar in the persistent universe looking on the TV and see basically our Twitch broadcast of that you could also see direct on our website. So hopefully that sounds cool.
That's all well and good, but when you're talking about a racing machine, at the end of the day, you really have to, well, race it.
Murray Cup is one of those things that was initially an idea that was bantied about. It was a piece of thing in the lore, and somebody was like, racing would be cool.
But originally it was sort of a test piece. Like, hey, I built this to test the ships and fly them around. And then that sort of evolved into, hey, we could make that a thing.
Yeah.
Is there anything about underground racing being written into the lore? With the Armada package being as much of a hit as it was, my org is looking to start an underground circuit of Capital Ship Cup racing. So underground racing is something that we have worked into the lore, and it's also something that'd be really fun to provide the tools for players to set up on themselves, being able to kind of create their own race courses. And I've had a couple conversations with design, so it's something that's interesting and maybe we'll be able to do. We still have to work out some of the details of it.
There's going to be a kiosk for you to enter races and bet on illegal races, with a view over a tunnel where the ships are going to start and end their races, going through the asteroid and that sort of thing.
And we're going to have an asteroid slalom race around the Grim Hex. So it'll be a new race part, which will be cool. Racing's a mode in Arena Commander, but really some of the most fun racing will be like the in-fiction, in-the-universe racing. So, people can already see you can already see in Grim Hex that there's, part of a race course that's already laid out there. And, in later iteration, we're going to open that up where players would compete and maybe bet against each other with.
Tell us something new about 3.0.
Let's see, recently we've been working on a character named Luca Brunt who runs the racing parlor in Grim Hex, and he's going to help you place bets as well as maybe have some racing missions for you to do.
Right.
Will the Grim Hex racetrack be open for racing in 3.0?
It's something we're looking into. We certainly want to, because it would be awesome. But it's a pipeline thing that may or may not make it in for 3.0.
I mean, the beauty thing we've got for the moons is we've got a lot of space. So waypoint racing around a hill or something like that is kind of where we're looking at the moment. Like, and then you're done, and it's like, oh, and I just race. Like the tech is so incredibly
really cool.
Easy to put together some prototypes. It's
good microcosm for all of Star Citizen. The first couple of years is building all of these tools that allow us to do things much quicker. One of the most common questions we get about any aspect of Star Citizen is how are they going to do all of this? In this time, it's what we've been doing, and the reason those first couple of years, didn't have a lot to show.
The next version is going to be the racing version, the RC. It's mostly just we're taking the base Cyclone and we're putting basically nitrous oxide in the thing.
Eventually, players will also be able to test their skills by speeding through race courses for the honor of logging the best time. This week's sneak peek highlights a scoreboard tracking just that.
One of the ships coming online with 3.1 is the Mist Razor. We've had the Dragonfly with 3.0. The Nox Kue is coming with 3.1, which is also a racing variant. We haven't had any additions to racing gameplay for some time.
Yeah. So we've actually, I mean, we don't have it on the list here. We've talked about trying to get some racing stuff in for 3.2 if we can make it. Definitely in for 3.3. The other thing, which is sort of going to the playing of now, we give love to Murray Cup Racing. And so we're in the process of looking to build dedicated teams to focus on that.
When will we see ground and air race tracks on Yella?
We have, for 3.0, tried to make the traditional kind of start, interesting track, finish line, races on all 3 moons. And then the moons changed. Like, just changed beneath us. You know, the technology keeps moving on. That doesn't mean we're not working on races. We are working on a scramble race right now, that it takes place in space and on planets, as it is a death race. We've got this working on the planets. It's just players only. We've got this working in space, where AI can actually join. Our AI are capable of like racing in space.
Something we're really excited about is the creation of a prototype scramble race event which can work in space or planetside. In these death races, opponents battle to collect randomly generated checkpoints and more fundamentally to stay alive.
So the mission team continues to work on modular mission design and has refocused efforts on the scramble race or death race missions that we saw early tests of in previous updates.
Y'all gonna be racing in the scramble. Get set, go! First one to collect enough checkpoints wins. Outside of that, do whatever the hell you want. Time to see who's gonna lay it all on the line and snatch the ring of victory. Wish we have ourselves a winner.
And we've also continued to improve the space races by crafting their own arenas inside the asteroid ring of Yella. This has finally got us that density of obstacles that we were lacking, and what makes the ground races so much fun.
I think it should be fun to see people playing it, and we're going to be expanding that going forward as well.
How do you reconcile the introduction of scramble racing missions with Death of a Spaceman?
It isn't a death race, right?
Right.
It isn't a death race. It's a race where you can kill people, like you can shoot people. Yeah. They're aimed towards the future. It's a tier 0, you know.
The tuner version is the racing version. It's got that extra boost capability and an extra battery so you can go a little longer.
For example, I always talk about this, like giving you guys some, like these, like 10 racing rods or something like that so you can set up a little race for yourself.
It's got the nice white car paint. It's got brand new racing thrusters in the back because it's much faster than the Merlin.
You know, when we feel that they're locked down to a point where the changes are going to be minimal, then we can look at doing things like racetracks and stuff, because the team is very keen in not only doing things like racetracks but providing players the abilities to create racetracks of your own, like through markers and beacons and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's about providing all these tools that we need to sort of easily make the game and not do everything by hand like I'm doing now. This is sort of an example of, you know, racetracks, and this is sort of an example of things that we really need tools and a more sort of solid idea of what we're doing before we actually start implementing those in.
Feature updates, gameplay. Temporarily removed scramble races.
There's a lot of things going on in the future of GrimHex that we needed to prepare for. Illegal races, we're going to need a lot of sort of betting and a mission giver and places to watch it from. So what we've done is we've taken one of the sort of more rundown and forgotten areas of GrimHex and kind of updated it to look super nice. Betting kiosks and screens that could, like, maybe in the future just display kinds of informations for the race, standings for the season. People are going to sit there, watch the races from this huge window that they have in front of them. There's even a little VIP area, places to sell beer, and people are just going to be able to like come in there and sit in this really dingy place and be able to watch these races happening around in the asteroids.
obviously the mission giver wasn't ready for that release, and the kind of the racing, the gameplay elements there as well wasn't ready. But essentially what we're doing is we're almost making the movie set. You know, we're building the sets ready for the actors to come in, and that's kind of a nice analogy, a nice way to kind of look at things. So
I want racing tracks in the verse.
That's a hot topic right now. I don't even know if you're aware of that. Yeah, that's such a hot topic right now.
Oh, I saw something.
There's a lot of discussion about how we can better support those types of groups actually in game, providing tools so that rather than, you know, having to place a ship or utilize a random rock as a marker or a checkpoint, that maybe you'll be provided with tools that will allow you to do it in a better way.
Deployable racing checkpoints. Yeah, that's also been on the list. We were talking about Scramble Races a couple years ago. One of the things that got reprioritized down the list a bit, but I was having a conversation with somebody about Scramble Races internally just earlier today.
But one aspect that's been driven almost entirely by the community is racing, a way to test the mettle of your pedal against other players at any time or place. That's why when a small handful of developers recently found themselves with just a little bit of spare time between tasks, they took inspiration from the community and created 2 new racing experiences for the persistent universe.
The process was a couple of hours of going through assets, putting them on the planet, setting them up, seeing if they feel good.
When we finished working on Siege of Orison, my lead approached me and told me about those convention halls, that they are most of the time empty in between the events, and maybe we should fill it with something fun for the player. We collected some ideas and decided to go for a buggy racetrack.
Racing is a cool and fun aspect of Star Citizen, and it's something that we've seen that backers really enjoy doing and organising amongst themselves, and something that we really want to help support from within CIG. So we wanted to bring a new vehicle to the verse, which is where the STV came from.
A lot of us come from a racing background in terms of the games we've developed before. A lot of us are petrol heads at heart. So I think being able to build on that kind of gameplay in Star Citizen is super exciting for us.
That means getting to continue an initiative started earlier this year to research community-created racetracks in the Stanton system and find new ways to incorporate them officially into the very fabric of the persistent universe.
So the yellow racetrack was taken inspiration from one of the racetracks built by the community. We've moved it slightly away from Grimhex into an adjacent asteroid field. So our designer in DE, Antoine Fauville, he's taken a course and he's made it for the players to play.
Why add 6 new racetracks to the persistent universe in 3.18?
For now, 6 racetracks. It was, I think this was a pretty easy win for all the teams that worked on this, and yeah, it was just fun to make, and hopefully it's going to be fun to play.
It's like, if I were the project manager, racing is the last thing I'd be working on. But you make a good point about, this was a starter task for a brand new member of the team. It's not everybody that works on Star Citizen is at the same level of involvement, is at the same level of experience, is at the same level of commitment. And a lot of these times when you see these outward things like, oh, why are they on this and also this and also this? It's because you're looking for tasks to fit schedules. You're looking for tasks to fit openings in availabilities. You're looking for tasks that are suitable for the